The stillness that sees all, awakening the observer within. What does it mean to remain present? What does it mean to be unmoved in a world that pulls, shakes, and distracts at every turn? If you sit in silence right now, just for a few moments, you might notice something. The world outside continues. People move. Cars pass. Thoughts arise. Emotions bubble. You might hear laughter. You might hear pain. The world does not stop. But here is the deeper question: who is observing it? There is a presence within you that does not move. No matter how chaotic the world becomes. It is the watcher. The silent witness. The aspect of you that does not react, but simply sees. And yet, most people live their entire lives in never touching this presence. They are swept away by thoughts, emotions, fears, desires. They mistake the movement for the self. They think they are the turbulence rather than the sky above it. They do not live, they are lived by impulses, by patterns, by conditioning. But we are here to break free. Let's begin. The illusion of movement and the trap of identification. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to believe in movement as identity. We are taught, if you feel anger, you are angry. If you feel fear, you are afraid. If you feel love, you are loving. But what if these are merely passing states rather than who you are? What if emotions, thoughts, and even the body are like clouds moving across the sky, impermanent, ever-changing, while you are the sky itself? Yet, people cling to these transient movements as if they are truth. They identify with them. Consider this. When you are happy, you say, I am happy. But happiness passes. When you are sad, you say, I am sad. But sadness passes. When you are successful, you say, I am successful. But success passes. If all these things come and go, can they truly be who you are? If I hand you a rock, and then take it away, does the rock become a part of you? No. It was merely something you held for a while. Your thoughts, your emotions, your roles in life, these are merely things you hold. They are not you. But society tells you differently. It tells you, chase happiness. Avoid sadness. Define yourself by success. And in doing so, it enslaves you to the illusion of movement. The path of the observer, seeing without reacting. So how do we step out? How do we become unmoved in a world of unawareness? The first step is to observe without participation. Right now, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Imagine you are sitting by a river. The water flows by, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Now imagine that each thought, each emotion, is like a leaf floating on that river. Many people try to control the river, they try to push the leaves away. Hold on to certain ones. Chase after others. But a wise person simply sits and watches. This is the first great secret of presence. You do not control the mind. You simply observe it. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them. Try this experiment. Sit still and wait for a thought to arise. When a thought comes, do not judge it. Do not follow it. Simply label it, thinking. Then let it go. Like a cloud passing. Do this again and again. At first, your mind will resist. It will try to pull you into the story. It will say, "But this thought is important," or "I need to think about this." Ignore it. Watch. And something miraculous will happen. You will begin to see that thoughts only have power when you give them attention. What happens when you stop reacting? They lose their hold. And in that moment, you become unmoved. The test of reality, remaining still in the storm. It is easy to feel calm when sitting in silence. But what about when the world crashes against you? When someone insults you, do you react? When you lose something dear, do you panic? When chaos erupts, do you crumble? Or, do you remain still? The true test of presence is whether you can carry the observer state into the storm of life. Most people react. They meet fire with fire. They defend their ego. They fight against the world. But the wise do something different. They watch. They do not engage in petty arguments. They do not drown in temporary emotions. They see the chaos for what it is, an illusion. A dance of impermanence. Ask yourself this. Can you remain still when someone wrongs you? Can you remain unmoved when the world judges you? Can you stand firm when life shakes you to your core? If you can, then you have truly awakened. If you cannot, then this is your training. Every challenge in life is an opportunity to practice stillness. Every difficult moment is an invitation to deepen awareness. Every loss, every betrayal, every hardship, it is not an enemy. It is a lesson. Because here is the final truth. You are not here to control the world. You are here to master yourself. And once you do, nothing can move you. Not praise. Not criticism. Not loss. Not gain. You will simply be. The ultimate freedom, detachment without apathy. Love without clinging. We often think of detachment as a cold, distant state, something like cutting ties with the world. Removing emotions. Or becoming indifferent. But that is not true detachment. True detachment is not the absence of love, it is the purest form of love. It is love without possession. It is care without control. It is connection without clinging. But how is that possible? How can we be fully present, fully engaged, yet remain free from suffering? The secret lies in understanding the nature of attachment. The illusion of ownership. Have you ever loved something so much that you were afraid to lose it? Maybe a person, an achievement, a status, or even a belief. And because you were afraid, you held on tightly. You tried to protect it, keep it, make it last forever. But what happened? The more you clung, the more fear grew. The more you tried to control, the more suffering arose. This is the great paradox of attachment. The harder you hold on, the more pain you create. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you keep your palm open, the sand remains. But the moment you try to squeeze it tightly, it slips through your fingers. Attachment is not love. Attachment is fear. And fear disguises itself as love in many ways. A parent who controls their child for their own good. A lover who clings out of jealousy. A friend who manipulates out of insecurity. But what if you could love without fear? What if you could experience everything fully, people? Success. Joy. Relationships, yet never be enslaved by them. This is what it means to be present and unmoved. The art of holding lightly. Let's be clear, detachment does not mean not caring. It means caring deeply, but without fear. It means enjoying life's beauty, but knowing it is temporary. Loving someone fully, but not needing them to complete you. Experiencing success, but not letting it define you. It means holding everything lightly. Imagine you are standing in a vast, open field. The wind is blowing. A beautiful butterfly lands on your hand. You admire it. You appreciate its colors, its presence. But do you trap it in your fist? Or do you simply let it be, knowing that if it flies away, it was never meant to be captured? This is true love. This is true freedom. But here's where people struggle, they confuse detachment with apathy. Detachment is not apathy. Some people hear the idea of detachment and think, if nothing lasts, why care? If I must let go, why even love? If everything is impermanent, why try? But that is not detachment, that is avoidance. Detachment does not mean running away. It does not mean isolating yourself. It does not mean feeling nothing. It means feeling everything, joy, sorrow, passion, loss, but never being consumed by it. Think about this. Can you love someone with all your heart, knowing they may leave one day? Can you pursue success passionately, without being destroyed by failure? Can you give everything to a moment, and still be at peace when it passes? This is the art of detachment without apathy. The fire that burns without destroying. There is a type of fire that consumes everything in its path. It destroys. It leaves only ashes. This is attachment. It clings. It suffocates. It burns everything it touches. But then there is another fire, the one that gives warmth. That illuminates. That transforms. This is detached love. It burns without destruction. It gives light without expectation. It radiates warmth without needing anything in return. And here is the ultimate truth. You cannot lose something you never possessed. You do not own love. You do not own happiness. You do not own people, success, health, or even life itself. They pass through you, like the wind through the trees, like the river that flows. And when you truly understand this, not just in your mind, but in your heart, you are free. Free to love. Free to give. Free to experience everything deeply. yet never be broken by it. The ultimate test of freedom. Now, I ask you, what is one thing in your life that, if lost, would devastate you? Is it a relationship? A status? An identity? Now imagine, you have already lost it. What remains? If your answer is nothing, then you are still trapped. But if your answer is, I remain, then you have found something unshakable. Because in the end, what remains when everything is taken away is the only thing that was ever truly yours, your awareness. It cannot be lost. It cannot be broken. It cannot be taken from you. And this is the ultimate realization. When you stop clinging, you stop suffering. When you stop fearing, you start living. This is the path of true presence. This is the way to remain unmoved in a world of unawareness. Now, let us go deeper. The silent mind, mastering thought, fear, and the ego's illusion. Everything we have explored so far, detachment, presence, being unmoved, is leading to one inevitable realization: the mind is both the prison and the key. It creates illusions, fears, identities, attachments. It generates suffering, not because it is evil, but because it is uncontrolled. And yet, paradoxically, the mind is also the only tool through which we can see beyond illusion. It is the observer, but it must be trained to remain silent. The silent mind is not a mind without thoughts. It is a mind that is not possessed by thoughts. But how do we reach this state? How do we master thought, fear, and ego? The answer is not in controlling the mind. The answer is in seeing through it. The nature of thought, seeing through the illusion. Have you ever stopped to observe your own thoughts? Not to engage with them, not to analyze them, but simply to watch. Try this experiment. For the next 10 seconds, do not think. What happened? Most likely, a thought appeared, uninvited. Maybe it was a random memory. Maybe it was a worry. Maybe it was even a thought about not thinking. This proves something profound. You do not think. Thinking happens to you. It is an automatic process. Like your heartbeat. You do not choose each individual thought. They arise on their own. And yet, most people identify with them. They believe, because I had a fearful thought, I must be afraid. Because I had an angry thought, I must be an angry person. Because I had a doubtful thought, I must be lost. But what if these thoughts are simply passing weather in the sky of your consciousness? Do you blame yourself when a storm rolls in? Do you take credit when the sun shines? Of course not. So why do you believe that every thought is you? The power of non-reaction. Now, here is where things get interesting. Thoughts only have power when you react to them. Imagine a person walks up to you and says, "You are a failure." If you react with anger, defensiveness, or sadness, the words have power. But if you simply watch the statement pass, like wind through an empty valley, it means nothing. The same is true for thoughts. A thought of fear arises. Observe it. Let it go. Do not react. A thought of self-doubt arises. Observe it. Let it go. Do not react. A thought of anxiety arises. Observe it. Let it go. Do not react. What happens? They begin to lose their hold over you. Because you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that watches them. The death of fear, facing the root of illusion. If we follow this path deeper, we arrive at the core of all suffering, fear. Fear is the great manipulator. It controls decisions. It limits potential. It keeps people enslaved to false identities. But what is fear? Really? It is nothing more than a thought about the future. Fear of failure is just a thought. Fear of rejection is just a thought. Fear of death is just a thought. And like all thoughts, fear can only harm you if you believe it. If you refuse to believe in fear, what happens? It evaporates. Try this. Think of your greatest fear. Hold it in your mind. Now, ask yourself, where is it? Right now. Not in the past. Not in the future. Right now. In this very moment, where is the thing you fear? It does not exist. It is merely a projection. A mental illusion. A shadow cast by a light that has not yet come. If you can truly understand this, not just intellectually, but viscerally, then fear loses all power. The ego's illusion, the final barrier to presence. There is one last force that keeps people trapped in suffering. In attachment. In unawareness. The ego. The ego is the voice in your head that says, I am better than them. I need to prove myself. I cannot let go because then I will be nothing. But here is the truth that many are afraid to face. The ego is already nothing. It is a collection of stories, memories, labels, comparisons. It is a construct, built over years, reinforced by society, fueled by fear. And yet, people spend their entire lives defending it. They fight wars over it. They destroy relationships for it. They live in misery just to keep it intact. But if the ego is just a thought, just another passing illusion, what happens when you stop feeding it? What happens when you stop believing in the identity you have created? What remains? If you can truly let go of everything you think you are, will you vanish? No. What remains is pure awareness. Not the ego. Not the personality. Not the labels. Just presence. And that is the ultimate secret. The more you let go, the more you become. The more you stop chasing, the more you arrive. The more you dissolve the false, the more the real emerges. The end of seeking, the beginning of true freedom. Most people spend their lives searching for something. They search for happiness, for peace, for success. But what if the search itself is the problem? What if the thing you are looking for is already here? Right now. In this very moment. Not in the future. Not in the past. Here. Close your eyes. Feel the breath moving in and out of your body. Feel the space between thoughts. Feel the silence behind the noise. That stillness. That is what you have been looking for all along. It has never left you. It has never changed. It is simply waiting for you to notice it. This is the way to remain present and unmoved in a world of unawareness. Not by resisting the world, but by seeing through it. Not by avoiding emotions, but by not clinging to them. Not by seeking freedom, but by realizing it is already here. You are already free. You always were. You just forgot. And now, you remember. Conclusion: the path beyond seeking, becoming the light that guides others. The greatest truth of all is that once you have found this stillness, once you have realized your presence, it does not stop with you. You become a beacon. You become the calm in the storm. You become the presence that awakens others. Not by force. Not by preaching. But simply by being. The world is full of chaos. But within you, there is peace. And that peace is unshakable. So walk forward, not as a seeker, but as one who has found. Not as someone looking for the light, but as someone who is the light. This is the end of the journey, and the beginning of something far greater. You are free.